The newsroom fell silent as the veteran reporter returned from St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church in Lake Ridge, Virginia. Her cameraman, normally unflappable, appeared visibly shaken. "The statue is actually crying," he whispered to his colleagues. It was 1992, and in a small Catholic church just 15 miles south of Washington, D.C., religious statues were shedding tears in the presence of a humble associate pastor who bore the wounds of Christ on his body, a phenomenon that would draw thousands of pilgrims and challenge the boundaries between faith and reason. What causes ordinary religious objects to weep in the presence of certain individuals? And why would God choose a roller coaster riding former record holder with no mystical inclinations to bear the sacred wounds of Christ's passion? The answers may lie not in scientific explanations, but in the age-old pattern of divine communication. God choosing the unexpected vessel, the ordinary person, to manifest extraordinary signs that call his people back to faith in times of spiritual drought. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's begin. Father James Bruce never set out to be remarkable. Born in 1954 and raised in Forestville, Maryland, he attended Catholic schools before becoming one of the first male graduates of Mary Washington College in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where he earned degrees in psychology and sociology. Before entering seminary, young Jim Bruce was known for something quite different from religious devotion. He was a world record-holding roller coaster enthusiast. In 1976, Bruce set 3 world records for marathon roller coaster riding. Most notably, he rode the Rebel Yell at the amusement park King's Dominion for 124 hours straight, more than 5 days, covering 1,805 miles on the tracks. These feats were recognized in the Guinness Book of World Records and raised nearly $500,000 for cancer research and muscular dystrophy. After college, Bruce worked for Southland Corporation for a decade, inspecting and road testing tractor trailers. It wasn't until later that he felt called to the priesthood, entering Mount St. Mary's Seminary in Emmitsburg, Maryland. He was ordained in May 1984 and served in several parishes before being assigned to St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church in Lake Ridge as an associate pastor. Many of us come to critical turning points in our lives where our true purpose is revealed in unexpected ways. Like Father, his transition from road testing trucks to serving God's people, these moments often come after years of seemingly unrelated experiences that were actually preparing us for our calling all along. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. Those who knew Father Bruce described him as unassuming, a blend-into-the-woodwork kind of guy who wore a mustache, black ankle boots, and drove an old Bonneville. Despite his good work with youth, he was not particularly notable. Many who had encountered him in previous parishes barely remembered him at all. Nothing in his background suggested mystical tendencies or unusual spiritual gifts. In fact, when the Stigmata first appeared, he had never even heard the term before. The extraordinary events began shortly after Christmas in 1991. Father Bruce noticed small, dime-sized pink marks on his wrists. Soon, similar marks appeared on the backs of his hands, his feet, and his right side, corresponding exactly to the wounds Christ suffered during crucifixion. When it started, I thought it was some kind of skin disease, Father Bruce told reporters. He didn't initially understand the significance of what was happening to his body. It was his superior, Father Daniel Hamilton, the pastor of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, who first recognized the marks for what they were. I said to him, "Stigmata," Father Hamilton recalled. But he didn't know what I was talking about or what those marks meant. So I said, "Didn't they teach you anything in the seminary?" The wounds would periodically bleed, most often during Mass or times of prayer. Even between bleeding episodes, Father Bruce experienced what he described as needle-like jamming pain in these wounds, pain intense enough to wake him in the middle of the night, driving him to prayer. But the stigmata was only the beginning. Soon, an even more visible phenomenon began occurring. Religious statues would weep in Father Bruce's presence. The first weeping statue incident occurred in the rectory. Father Hamilton had gone to Father Bruce's room to deliver an encyclopedia with information about stigmata. Finding the room empty, he decided to leave the book on the desk. That's when he noticed something extraordinary. A small statue of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton in Father Bruce's room was producing red droplets that looked like blood. Stunned, Father Hamilton backed out of the room and returned to his quarters. There, he found another startling sight. The statue of Mary that he had recently exchanged with Father Bruce was weeping profusely, creating a puddle of clear tears. "Of course, I doubted it in the beginning," Father Hamilton later told the press. "And then I saw some of this stuff he'd been talking about. It's true, that's all I can tell you. It's true. It's true." The phenomenon soon spread beyond the rectory. During Mass, parishioners noticed that the large statue of the Virgin Mary in the sanctuary would weep when Father Bruce celebrated the liturgy. Sometimes just his presence in a room was enough to trigger the weeping. Congregation member Tom Saunders recounted one such experience. "I was holding a statue in Bruce's presence and it started crying. I was amazed, incredible. When you are holding something in your hand and actually feel the water, it's hard to say, 'I don't believe it.'" The phenomena weren't limited to St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church. When Father Bruce visited other parishes, statues there would often begin weeping as well. The water appeared to form at the corner of the statue's eyes, with no apparent source or mechanism. Skeptical observers looked for hidden tubes, wires, or water reservoirs, but found none. As we witness Father Bruce's extraordinary life, many find themselves drawn to explore similar spiritual manifestations. Our free ebook is available in the pinned comment for those seeking proper understanding. There are only a few copies available. Download yours while supplies last. Soon, word spread beyond the parish. The Washington Post sent reporters to investigate. Television news crews arrived with cameras. Even when journalists approached with skepticism, many left convinced they had witnessed something that defied explanation. By March 1992, what had begun as a private spiritual experience became a very public phenomenon. The Washington Post published a feature article titled "The Mystery of the Weeping Statues," bringing national attention to the events at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church. Television crews from local stations descended on the parish. Channel 5 dispatched a reporter and cameraman, their emotions evidently stirred by their observations. Their footage of a weeping statue became part of a media sensation that was unprecedented in coverage of religious phenomena. The parish, previously unknown to most outside the immediate area, became a destination for pilgrims. Tour buses began arriving at the small church. Visitors came hoping to witness a miracle, to touch a weeping statue, or to receive prayers from the priest with the stigmata. Father Bruce himself was uncomfortable with the attention. Despite the extraordinary things happening to and around him, he maintained the humble demeanor that had characterized his priesthood before the stigmata. When asked about the events, he would simply say, "I don't know what the Lord wants from me, but I feel the situation is a sign from Christ. He's watching us, and his presence is 100% real." His pastor, Father Hamilton, tried to maintain a sense of reverence amid the growing circus-like atmosphere. When one reporter asked if Father Bruce could make a statue weep while they were there, Father Hamilton replied firmly, "This is not a carnival." What distinguished the Seton miracles from many other claimed supernatural events was the credibility and diversity of the witnesses. These weren't just devout parishioners predisposed to believe in miracles. They included skeptics, journalists, and even the Bishop of the Arlington Diocese, John R. Keating, who along with Monsignor William Reinecker witnessed the weeping statues firsthand in the bishop's office. Local attorney James Carney, a Harvard-educated lawyer, extensively documented the events in a book titled The Seton Miracles, Weeping Statues and Other Wonders. His legal training gave him a unique perspective in gathering and evaluating eyewitness testimony. Perhaps most surprising was the testimony of Justice Antonin Scalia of the United States Supreme Court, who later referenced the Seton miracles in a 2010 address to judges and lawyers. Justice Scalia expressed bewilderment that such well-documented phenomena didn't attract more serious investigation from skeptics. Why wasn't that church absolutely packed with non-believers seeking to determine if there might be something to this? He asked his audience. The answer, he concluded with disdain, was that the wise do not investigate such silliness. Father Bruce's own stance on skepticism was refreshingly honest. When asked about the possibility of a hoax, he told reporters, "I would be just as cynical. I would be questioning this." Father Hamilton likewise described himself as the ultimate cynic when it came to such matters, yet both men were convinced by what they had experienced firsthand. The mysterious weeping statues that appeared in Father Bruce's presence remind us that divine signs continue in our modern world. Our free ebook examining such phenomena is available in the pinned comment for curious readers. With limited copies remaining, we encourage downloading today. Beyond the physical phenomena, the Seton miracles produced tangible spiritual effects. Many who witnessed the weeping statues or encountered Father Bruce reported profound conversions, returns to the sacraments after years away from the church, reconciliations of broken relationships, and even physical healings. The parish itself experienced a spiritual revival. Mass attendance increased dramatically. Confessional lines grew longer. Prayer groups formed. Some observers noted that a community which had been going over the edge, insecure in its belief, was brought back to solid belief and religious practice. Father Bruce viewed these spiritual fruits as the true purpose behind the physical phenomena. The stigmata and weeping statues were not ends in themselves, but signs pointing to a more fundamental truth, God's presence and call to return to faith. As one commentator noted, for those who have the faith, miracles are unnecessary and perhaps even just distracting. For those who will not believe, miracles are never adequate. Between them are those whose faith is merely insecure. Perhaps the Seton miracles aim to reach this middle group, the spiritually insecure. The Catholic Church's approach to claimed miracles has always been one of prudent caution. In Father Bruce's case, the local diocese neither officially endorsed nor rejected the phenomena. Bishop Keating witnessed the events firsthand, but maintained institutional reserve in public statements. This caution sometimes frustrated believers who wanted more explicit acknowledgement. However, the Church's restraint was consistent with its historical approach, allowing time for thorough investigation while protecting the faithful from potential disappointment, should the phenomena prove explainable by natural means. Father Bruce himself underwent psychological evaluation at the Church's suggestion and cooperated fully with this process. The psychiatrist's report, while not made public in its entirety, apparently raised no concerns about mental instability or deception. What's notable is that despite the lack of official endorsement, church authorities did not suppress or dismiss the phenomena. They permitted pilgrims to visit, granted media coverage, and allowed the events to unfold under a state of benevolent observation. As mysteriously as the phenomena began, they eventually subsided. By spring of 1992, the frequency and intensity of the stigmatic bleeding began to decrease. Father Bruce reported that the wounds on his wrists and feet gradually disappeared over the following months. Similarly, the weeping statues phenomenon slowly diminished. By 1993, the extraordinary events that had drawn thousands to St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church had largely ceased. Father Bruce offered no explanation for why the phenomena stopped. He has no idea why the miracles started and why they stopped, observers noted. This unexplained conclusion to the events underscored their mysterious nature and resistant to human control or explanation. Some theologians suggested that once the spiritual purpose had been fulfilled, the revival of faith in the parish community, the physical signs were no longer necessary. As one commentator put it, in Father Bruce's case, it may have been because the parish to which he was assigned was going over the edge, insecure in its belief. He brought the parish back to solid belief and religious practice. Once this was accomplished, the miracles ceased. In 1995, Father Bruce received what church officials described as a routine promotion and reassignment. He was transferred to St. Francis de Sales Church in Kilmarnock, Virginia, a small parish on the Northern Neck. Some speculated that the transfer was the church's way of removing Father Bruce from the spotlight, but he himself rejected this interpretation. "It wasn't a negative thing at all," he said of the move. Like him, many have experienced unexpected spiritual callings that transformed their lives. Our free e-book awaits in the pinned comment. Only a few copies remain available. Secure yours before they are gone. In Kilmarnock, Father Bruce served as pastor of St. Francis de Sales and its mission church, St. Paul's. His ministry expanded to include local hospitals, nursing homes, and prisons. Away from the media attention, he returned to the quiet pastoral work that had characterized his priesthood before the Stigmata. By 1997, 2 years after his transfer, Father Bruce reported that people rarely asked him about the events of 1992 to 93. However, he still received visits and letters from people seeking spiritual advice and blessings, a quieter but continuing impact of his extraordinary experience. Father Bruce would go on to serve at St. Francis de Sales for 16 years before being reassigned in 2011 to Our Lady of the Blue Ridge Church in Madison, Virginia. There, he continued his pastoral ministry, now accompanied by his Bengal cat, Turbo. His parishioners in Madison knew of his stigmatic past, but also appreciated him for his current work, particularly his concern for the rural poor and his efforts to address community issues like the local drug problem. 30 years after the events at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Church, the Seton miracles remain a compelling mystery. No definitive scientific explanation has emerged for how statues could weep in Father Bruce's presence, or how stigmatic wounds could appear on his body without trauma. The phenomena resist easy categorization. For believers, they stand as evidence of God's continuing intervention in human affairs, signs and wonders that recall the biblical narratives. For skeptics, they remain an anomaly, well-documented events that nonetheless strain credulity. The Seton miracles' most remarkable aspect may be the man at their center, not just the phenomena. Father James Bruce never sought attention or special status. He viewed his experience with humility and even a touch of bewilderment. When the phenomena ceased, he returned to quiet ministry without claiming ongoing special powers or building a personal following. In this, he stands in stark contrast to many who claim extraordinary spiritual gifts. His humility and continuity of service suggest an authenticity that transcends the physical phenomena themselves. If these insights resonate with you, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Your super thanks support helps us create more content like this. Join our community and stay connected. Whether one views the Seton miracles as divine intervention or unexplained natural events, they serve as a reminder that our material world may be more mysterious than we often acknowledge. That between skepticism and credulity lies a space for wonder and the possibility that, as Shakespeare put it, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. For Catholics in particular, the events surrounding Father Bruce offer a modern touchpoint with the Church's long tradition of mystical experience, a tradition that includes St. Francis of Assisi, St. Catherine of Siena, and Padre Pio, all of whom bore the stigmata. In a time when faith is often challenged by secularism and materialism, such reminders of mystery can reawaken spiritual hunger and open hearts to the possibility of divine presence in our midst.